Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch build guide video. This one is for the Paladin. This is Bleed Hammers in Season 2. And the gameplay that you are watching was taken at Corruption 1034. Before we go any further, in the description down below, you will find two planners. One planner will be the gear that I am wearing currently and what I have accumulated to this point. And then the second planner will be the aspirational, what I want for this build, what I am shooting for. So I figured I'd point that out. If that's all you're here for, I appreciate the support. Thank you for clicking on the video. Possibly leave a like, possibly subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. Other than that, let's continue on. So Bleed Hammers in Season 2. I wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen with the volatile reversal, rework, but I do feel like EHG handled at least this portion of Sentinel all right. We already know there's other portions of Sentinel that have been a little overtuned, but when it comes to Bleed Hammers, I feel like it's been done pretty well. The damage is good, the mobility is good with the shield rush. We're able to move from pack to pack, and it has some nice bursts when we use the abyssal echoes, right? You move from one pack, hit, use abyssal echoes to consume all the stacks, move on to the next one. I think this build does everything pretty well except for one thing: walls. It has a problem with walls. So you should be seeing some gameplay right now of me walking into a wall and all of my hammers despawning. This is in a tomb, as you might recognize, the new hot content here in Season 2. So it is a little unfortunate, but this has been an age-old problem for hammer builds in Last Epoch for a while. Certain objects are just absolutely just massive black holes. And in tombs and cemeteries, a lot of objects are black holes for your hammers. Now, not everything. Some of the fences, some of the other stuff, obviously the open areas are not black holes, but some of the objects are, and the walls are the primary thing. The way I've worked myself around the way I've worked around this is don't try and fight in the narrow hallways and then try and get into the open areas with that. That helps a lot. But also you can just do regular good old-fashioned spiral hammers. I really like the orbiting hammers, where they follow you around, but spiral hammers gives you a little bit more control in that regard. You don't accidentally walk into a wall and all your hammers follow you right into the wall. You can summon a bunch of hammers, kind of hide into them as like a mobile wall, and then you can move into a wider area. When you do that, though, you'll have to resummon your hammers again, but it gives you a little bit more control and it helps with the mana. I figured I'd throw that out there. For the most part, though, Bleed Hammers is doing everything that I wanted to do pretty well. As I said, this is Corruption 1034. Here we are fighting Aberoth. Obviously, he doesn't scale with Corruption, and as you can tell, we're kind of just slapping him around. Aberoth for this build is a sub 3-minute kill, and I'm sure if I optimize this even more, we can probably get it down close to 2 minutes from beginning to end. And when I say beginning, I mean you walk in, you fight the two harbingers, and then you fight Aberoth. That's what I mean, beginning to end, sub 3 minutes. I'm sure we can get it down close to 2 minutes. And I think that's pretty quick, and I think that's great for farming this guy out. There's a lot of sustain in the build. It's just comfy. All right. The entire build is just comfortable to me. I've really enjoyed my time with Bleed Hammers. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and check out some bosses at Corruption 1034. And knowing me, this is the Black Sun timeline. So here we go. Starting with Void Chicken, aka Raye. So Raye, he does a lot of damage. He can absolutely just blitz us with those pizza attacks, the nice little slices on the ground. You just dodge those. You keep applying hammers. Whenever you get a chance, you just consume all the bleed stacks, apply some more, and rinse and repeat, and he will eventually go down. Followed by the Harbinger. He does a little less damage, but he has a lot more health. So you just got to sustain through all of his attacks, obviously dodge what you can, and then, take him down eventually, take him down to Pound Town. And for the most part, you're able to get through that. I personally have not had too many issues with stuff in the game once I got some of the affixes set up on my gear just right, and I've been having a pretty good time with it. So let's go ahead and jump into the game, and we'll go ahead and look over everything. Come on. All right, here we are in game. Let me give you a brief demonstration. So here's our bad guy, right? We're gonna have some hammers. This is the orbiting hammers version. We're gonna go running into this guy, hit him with that, right? And then consume all the stacks. And if need be, drink a potion. Hit them, consume all the stacks, rinse, and repeat. It is a pretty simple build. I have a lot of muscle memory when it comes to this build, repositioning with the orbiting hammers. So I'm able to apply some pretty good stacks this way. But yeah, it's pretty much how you do it. And then you just go running off to the next one. So what this build uses or utilizes is the Brewmaster's Buckle. I actually released a video for this. Went live last Friday. And so what happens if you look at our bleed duration? Well, actually, let me show you first. Here's our endurance threshold. So for 4 seconds when we drink a potion, we gain 10% of our health is gained as endurance threshold. So let me drink a potion. Boom. It jumps up to 1,620. When we go ahead and look at this, we gain bleed duration per 20 endurance threshold. So the more endurance threshold we have, we gain bleed duration. So the way bleed works is it's kind of like a snapshot, if that makes sense, a picture. When that bleed stack is applied, it takes into account every buff available to you in that moment. And then that one bleed stack gets it, right? And then it doesn't change. It lasts for the life of that bleed stack. So when we hit an enemy with this and we gain crumbling, let me show you what crumbling does real quick. When we use the abyssal echoes and we apply abyssal decay, when an enemy is afflicted by abyssal decay with the crumbling node, they take 24% increased damage over time. It lasts for the life of abyssal decay, which is roughly around 5-ish seconds. It's increased by a little bit, but around 5-ish seconds. So what I like to do, hitting the enemy, right? Abyssal echoes, drink a potion, boom. Now everything's being snapshotted for a couple seconds. Okay, now it's gone. Here's what I like to do. Use abyssal echoes, drink a potion, boom. You're now building up your shots again. Boom. Use abyssal echoes to consume. It reapplies the abyssal decay. Drink a potion, rinse, and repeat. That's how I'm able to get some of that bursty damage that you guys saw in the gameplay section. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and do a quick overview. So we're going to talk about the gear. Then we're going to talk about the idols. Then we're going to talk about the blessings. Then we're going to talk about the Weaver's Tree. Then we're going to talk about the skills. And then we're going to talk about the passive tree. Timestamps in the description down below. Thank you. So let's go ahead and talk about the gear. So we're going with the Leonines. This is nearly perfect. Strength, chance to bleed if wielding an axe, health. What I was shooting for was this. Not the mana, but I wanted T5 strength, T7 health, one of them, and then T5 health, and then seal one of the last bear. Here, let me show you the set real quick. Excuse me. This set, right? Where there we go. This set, right? So you gain endurance threshold per strength. I was shooting for the 2-set bonus. We were going to put it on the Leonine's helmet and chest piece. So I think it's still possible, but I think that's like ultra in-game min-maxing at that point. I would rather have these affixes like this than having something like this. It's got the set bonus, but the affixes are kind of garbo, right? I mean, they're not exactly garbo, but they're not right there. I'd rather have perfectly set up gear like this than having mid-tier with part of a set, right? We're not going for the 3-set bonus because I want to use Salt the Wounds. So the endurance threshold per strength was only going to be going off the strength that we have in the passive tree and strength that we would have on these 2 pieces of gear, right? that was going to be the only source of strength. It was going to give us a little bit more endurance threshold. And like I showed you in the game at the overview section, endurance threshold gives us more bleed duration. So I was just trying to squeeze out a little bit more bleed duration using this Last Bear set. So I didn't get it, but I did get this. And I think eventually I could get to this. The crafting this season is insane. So that's what I'm shooting for. That's in the aspirational planner. So Leonines, we went with this. We went with the strength, chance to bleed if wielding an axe, health, bam. There you go. This is pretty well set up. Champions Regalia, this is not perfect by all means. Like I said, we were going for the Last Bear set. Seal the affix. I think those affixes are just not worth taking up potentially a health or chance to bleed, whatever main prefix / suffix affix. I don't think it's worth leveling one of those up to tier 5 or even, Rune of Havoc, switching it over into it. I think those are only worth sealing it at tier 1 and leaving it and going for the 2-set bonus, in my opinion. So this one, I would have preferred chance to bleed or physical pen, but increase damage and bleed duration is not bad. Plus, this is nearly max. It's tier 6. We got mana. Mana's all right, but I would have preferred strength. And then increase health and health. Those are nice, but I probably would have preferred an exalted health in one of those areas. But other than that, Champions Regalia, that's what I would be going for. Dragonbone Axe. The reason why we want a Dragonbone Axe, the chance to bleed implicit is very high. You can get up to 100% on just the implicit. I got 98, doing pretty well. Critical strike multiplier, nearly its max. Increased physical damage, 98 out of 104. Pretty good. Chance to bleed, 111 out of 114. Extremely nice. This is the only weak point. Instead of chance to shock, I would prefer chance to chill, because chill is a debuff. It lowers their movement speed and their attack speed. But beyond that, this is probably the best Dragonbone bleed axe I've ever had. Let's talk about these reins real quick. So what I'm actually going for is something like this over here. This is perfect. This is nearly perfect. The one thing, actually the two things I would want for that block chance, that hybrid block chance affix, I want that to be a T7. Also, instead of increased health regen, I would want health. Beyond that, perfect. All right. Mana regen, perfect. Throwing attack speed, perfect. Sealing a throwing damage and minus mana cost, perfect. It's almost there. It's almost there. The only other thing I would do on top of that is put it on a gold ring base. See, this one was kind of there. It was almost there, but I needed that mana regen. Now, here's the thing. If you are not running Hammer Vortex, then you actually don't really need this mana regen. I like Hammer Vortex a lot. But if you are, if you're just running good old Spiral, you don't really need this mana regen, so you could get away with something like this. Now, you would want the throwing attack speed, but food for thought. And then same thing over here. These are not duped, by the way. These are not, copied. I was almost there. No mana regen on this one, but we got mana regen and mana regen. That's the only sources of our mana regen. The reason why I would want a tier 7 is just more block effectiveness. Like right now, our block effectiveness is 3,498. We got block effectiveness on two of our idols right here. It's good. I'd prefer some more. We'll see what we can do. Okay. So we talked about the rings. We talked about this. Let's talk about the belt. I kind of already gave an overview. Plus, I made a whole freaking video about this. But Brewmaster's Buckle, I think this is best in slot for a lot of builds. It gives a lot of armor. The increase, the fact that you can get like up to 3 LP pretty easily. I only got 2 LP, but you can get up to 3 LP somewhat reliably. You get the 10% of maximum health gain as endurance when you drink a potion. You gain health gained on potion use. You get the vitality, you get the endurance, and the additional potion slots. This thing is goated. This is such a great addition. I made a standalone video to this to this belt. It's in the description. Link to that video in the description down below if you're interested. Let's talk about Salt the Wound. So the reason why I like to use Salt the Wound is it gives us additional damage over time, critical strike multiplier, and it converts a portion of our added critical strike multiplier into physical penetration with bleed. Yeah, we can get a lot of physical pen. So let me take this off, right? So let's, in our mind, add 26%. And I'm probably going to have to move my face here. So remind me to put it back. So if we go over here to our damage, we, as of right now, have 400%. 400% critical strike multiplier. Now we get 200 for free. So that means right now on my gear and blessings, I have added 200% critical strike multiplier, not including the 26% that comes on Salt the Wound. And we convert 40% of that into physical pen with bleed. It's a lot of physical pen. So we put this on, boom. All of that got converted into physical pen. Now that's the leftovers, right? So that you can convert up to 50%. You can convert up to 50% of your added critical strike multiplier. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. All right. I'm trying to get the 50%. And I got a low roll on this one. This one's a 40, but you know, eventually I would like to get a better one. Also, we get bleed duration, armor, that sort of thing. Salt the Wound, this thing is great. Blood of the Exile, best in slot. Try and get increased bleed duration as high as possible. 36% more physical damage to moving enemies, ailment damage. Bleed, dexterity, intelligence. This thing is great. Try and get a 2 LP. Get the guaranteed T7 movement speed, and then try and get health. Let me see. Oh, yeah. My face was blocking it. Let me move it back. Okay, yeah. There we go. Now you can actually see it. Yeah, so Blood of the Exile, movement speed, bleed duration. This thing is goated. Let's go back over here to Salt the Wound as well, just so you guys can see that. Physical resistance, added critical strike multiplier, all that good stuff. Moving on. Valdir's Chalice, very good. Best in slot. This is also our only source of leech, right? We gain 2% physical damage over time. Leeched is health. This is our only source of leech. All that sustain you saw in the gameplay, it was all coming from this, all right? Now, if you want to, I would highly recommend running this, and then when it comes to something like your amulet slot, you can run a Bleeding Heart. You can run both. If you want, you can run a Bleeding Heart and a Valdir's Chalice. But I think, at least for 1000 corruption, Valdir's Chalice is good enough, in my opinion. Now, when I fought Uber Aberoth, I found that his attacks in particular, I needed more sustain. So if that's the case, I would probably want to use a Bleeding Heart. Oh, and I didn't kill Uber Aberoth, by the way. There's no clips. If you're interested, it's in a live stream, timestamps, that sort of thing. Yeah. So Valdir's Chalice, chance to bleed, increased bleed duration, and leech. This thing is goated. Highly recommend you get yourself a Valdir's Chalice for the build. Let's talk about Nihilus, since I already mentioned it. Why Nihilus when everybody else uses a Bleeding Heart? Well, you see, I'm a glutton for that +2 to all skills, that 11% increased health, that 7% increased mana, the up to 8% increased movement speed, +2 to all skills, mana regen, 14% more armor. We do lose some all res, sucks. When we evade, when we roll, we gain frenzy for 4 seconds. This thing is nuts. The one thing it doesn't have is all that extra leech, but I think this is fine. I think Nihilus is fine, and yeah, but if you're working on some like hardcore end game like bossing builds, bossing strats, get yourself like a Bleeding Heart if you need more sustain. All right, so I think that's everything. Let's talk about the shield. Countenance of Majasa. This thing is cracked. If this thing is not nerfed next season, then I'm at a loss for words. But yeah, for right now, this shield is insane. It's got a ton of block chance. It's got a ton of block effectiveness. And then on top of it, you convert a portion of your block effectiveness into damage over time reduction whenever you take damage over time. Oh, and then you can, potentially petrify an enemy that goes to hit you or even look at you. This thing is nutty. I don't even know how it made it past Q&A. Like not Q&A, QA. Like, what? I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it until this thing gets nerfed, and I highly recommend you do as well. All right, that is the gear. Let's go ahead and talk about the idols. So this is kind of a weak point for me on the build. The idols are, I needed the physical resistance. So let's open this up. I needed the physical resistance, and the bleed duration is a nice touch. But you can see I did not get anything over here. What I would be shooting for, what I'm shooting for is this critical strike multiplier, right? So as of right now, I'm only getting 10% additional critical strike multiplier out of my idols. What I'm trying to get is critical strike multiplier on everything except this one. You get to re-roll them as many times as you want, but it's pretty rando. Pretty rando. But let's talk about the other affixes on there. These are the affixes you want for the large idols. You want bleed duration and physical damage over time. And then you would want the critical strike multiplier and then whatever else you would get on there. I thought when I created my planner back, my starter back at the beginning of season 2, I put double T7 on here. I have not gotten a single double T7. I've gotten a T7 and then like a T1, but I mean, I guess it's possible. So I'm just going to recommend you try and get one affix on here, and that one affix be critical strike multiplier. And if you need the physical resistance, grab this. This is a good affix. But yeah, you're looking for bleed duration and physical damage over time. I only got that on one of my large idols. I did get block effectiveness, which I think is also like pretty good. Health and block effectiveness. If you can't get physical damage over time, shoot for that bleed duration though. Bleed duration is more important in my opinion. Get that onto your large idols and then try and get increased physical damage over time. As for your idols over here, your large idols, you're looking for chance to cast smite when you hit with a throwing attack. That's why smite is not on our bar right here. It's being procced by our hammers. You're looking for those keen idols, and then you're looking for block effectiveness after that. Right? So these are nearly perfect. These are nearly perfect. I'm almost there with these. I just got to work on my large idols. And those are the idols. Let's go ahead and talk about the blessings real quick. My blessings aren't perfect, but oh, I thought we were at 1,034. My bad, guys. 1,033. Follow the outcast. Grab yourself the experience blessing. Thank me later. Over here, grab the rain blessing and then the one-handed axe blessing. That's going to be very nice for your dragon bone axes. And then grab your increased prefix shard drop rates. This is fine. You can kind of take whatever you want. As you can tell, I've never been back to the last ruin. I hate that timeline. I hate that boss. I haven't been back. I will be back, but I haven't been back yet. Last ruin timeline, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Age of Winter. Let's start down here. So Black Sun timeline, you're going to want critical strike multiplier. Ending the Storm, you got 3 affix choices if you ask me. You can take the lightning resistance, you could take the mana, or you can take the health regen. Any one of those. For me, since I'm doing the orbiting spiral hammers, the mana feels very comfy. I can use a better blessing though. Reign of Dragons, I'm a little embarrassed at this one. I haven't been back since. We can get more chance to bleed. You want this to be 100%. I'm at 86, so there's more damage to be had. Spirits of Fire timeline. Again, there's another one. I should go back and try and get a better blessing. We're at 242 armor out of 320 potentially. We left over 100 flat armor on the table. Well, not over 100. We left 80 or 78 on the table. Try and get that one better. This one is very good. Block chance is very important, as well as the block effectiveness. Highly recommend you pick up this blessing if you're going to be using the shield. And then the last ruin timeline, go for the mushroom looking head thing. Does anybody else think that's a mushroom? Because I think that's a mushroom. It's a mushroom with eyes, and it's staring at you. Yeah, grab the increase class specific shard drop rate. I'm gonna turn away now. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about our Weaver tree. So I find the Weaver tree is pretty subjective and to the user who's using it. And then I also feel like every day that every day that goes by, there's always some new discovery about the Weaver's tree. So it's constantly evolving. So let me tell you what I've done for the most part. Increase the chance of finding tombs and cemeteries. Take 3 points in Necropolis of the Weaver and Woven Fortunes right here to try and get as many Woven Echoes as possible. And this really procs a lot on champions, so I'm trying to spawn champions as much as possible. I hid the arena keys. I increased some of the exalted items that the lizards drop. And yeah, it like I said, it's pretty subjective. I think in the future it'd be cool if they put like more of these, like Fury and Fortune. All rare enemies are permanently enraged, but they drop more stuff, like juicing, right? Like you can juice the enemies in your echoes a little bit more. But for right now, I'm just trying to spawn more champions and get more woven echoes. As for what I'm imprinting, I'm just trying to get, more throw and attack speed stuff, that sort of thing. And then, helmets. Yeah, that's what we're shooting for. So that is the Weaver tree. Let's go ahead and talk about the skills. So in the guide that I released before the season came out, I'm going to grab a drink real quick. So in the guide I put out before the season came out, I theorized that Force of Impact would be really good, but I had put all the points into Rapid Throw. Well, I have learned from my mistakes. Put as many points into Force of Impact and weighted hammers as possible. Also, I took a point in Hammer Vortex right here. The spiral hammers follow you around. I've mentioned that multiple times, but you don't need this. If you're okay with just regular good old-fashioned spiral hammers, you can go with that, and then you can save on the mana. But since I like them following me around, I've taken Hammer Vortex and tried to put as many points into Ballista after that as possible. And that is the hammer setup. Let's talk about the smite setup. So I had a couple extra points. We have +2 to everything, as you can tell, all thanks to Nihilus. So I went up here, 1 point, 3 points, 4 points. You gain the increased attack speed, 2 points. I like to put 1 point into Sacrifice and then 5 points into Atonement, and then put the rest of the points back into Sacrifice. This increases the damage of the bleeds as they're being applied by Smite, right? And then Holy Wave, smites heal in a larger area. I took another point here, and then I grabbed 1 point in Panacea. That way I can try and get some extra cleanses. If you look at our belt, we don't have chance to cleanse on potion use. That is what I would take if I had a 3 LP. I would take chance to cleanse on potion use, health, and health. So I'm trying to make up for that with the way I have set up Smite. Let's go ahead and talk about Symbols of Hope. So in my guide that I had released before the season came out, I had put 3 points into Holy Revelation and then only put like 2 points into Iron Symbols. I have learned from my mistake as well. Put as many points into Iron Symbols as possible, right? So typically it would be 4, 4, 5, nothing, 2, 1, 1, and 3. Since we have 2 extra points, I put 1 point in a Holy Revelation and 1 point in Empowering Symbols. So yeah, try and get this node. That endurance threshold, it also means that's your bleed duration. Go for it. Get it. Holy Aura, 5 points, 2 points, 1 point. This is our primary source of cleanse. 5 points, typically 2 points, but since I had 2 extra points, so 2 points, 3 points. We're trying to get that haste chance and throwing attack speed on expedite, and then 3 points, and then my 2 extra points I put one into Call to Arms and Strength from Afar. Let's talk about Abyssal Echo. So I have tried this node up here, Screaming Rifts. If you didn't know, it's something where you use Abyssal Echoes, and then basically it uses Abyssal Echoes again, and then again, and then again for you. I think it's okay, but I personally like this, just spreading the love right off the bat. It works for great large groups of enemies. That's what I like to go for. The star of the show is Sanguine Eruption. In my opinion, consuming all those bleed stacks gives you a lot of that upfront damage. Feels very snappy, and it's really good for just running through regular rifts, through monoliths. I like that a lot. You're going to want to try and take Embrace the Darkness damage versus blinded enemies. You gain an attack speed buff, which means more hammers, and then also damage versus blinded. That's a 20% more multiplier. Grab that if you can. And then obviously we're going for Crumbling. Let's talk about the passive tree here. So what I would recommend, so what I did here, so I had put, increased stun immunity, duration, blah, 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 in my planner before the season came out. I have since moved away from that. If you want to run with this, go for it. Essentially 8 points, 6 points, 5 points, 5 points. I could see a world where you don't take this, since the only cooldown recovery for a movement skill that we are using is Shield Rush. And as you could tell in the skill section, we are not spec'd into Shield Rush, right? This is unspec'd. We're just using it straight up. So if you don't really care too much about that, you can take these 5 points out and put them somewhere elsewhere here in the tree, maybe even into Relentless or somewhere else, or into Fearless and into Stalwart. I don't know. It's up to you. I, out of habit, keep putting points here. That 30 health is what I'm going for. Obviously, we want 5 points in Armor Clad for that damage reduction. And then we go over here to Blade Master. So Axe attack speed. Excuse me. We have 30% increased attack speed while we are wielding an axe. Blade Master is very good for that. So in my planner, I had 3 points here in Steel Aegis for that block chance. I found that with this shield, if you have a T7 block chance and you have both block chance modifiers on your reins, you actually don't need it. We're at 100% block chance. So what I did, I took the 3 points out of Steel Aegis and the 3 points out of Honor, and I put it further down this side of the tree, and we'll go over that in a second. So we take 5 points in Weapons Master for that bleed chance while wielding an axe. Free 75% bleed chance. Can't argue with that. Plus, we can use the strength. Void Knight, I put 10 points into Abyssal Endurance for the health and void resistance and physical resistance. Also, we take 5% less void and physical damage. Very nice. If you are good on Abyssal Endurance, you only have to put 5 points here for that void and physical damage bonus. What you could do, since we need 10 points for Abyssal Echoes, you could take 5 points and put it into Devouring Blade and get a little bit more leech if you so desire. All right, let's go over to Paladin. So as you guys can tell, I am right on the edge when it comes to my elemental resistances. So I had to put 8 points here to get the full effect of the elemental resistances. If I could, I would use a gold ring. to get the implicit elemental resistance. If that was the case, or if I actually had resistance all res on my Nihilus, we would be good. But since I don't have any of those, I had to put all 8 points into Defiance. Here's what I would like to do. 5 points, 8 points, right? And then put that extra point somewhere else, like right here, something. Who knows? But since my Nihilus is set up the way it is, this is what I have to do. Let's go back over here. So I had to put 8 points into Defiance, 6 points into Conviction. We're mostly going for that physical pen. I mean, the increase is not too bad either. Valor, we don't really need the endurance. We just needed the 3 points, so that's all I put here. 3 points, get some health. 1 point into Blinding Light for the blind chance. It's nice. It's just a nice to have, in my opinion. A little extra can go a long way, help make up for whatever. 6 points in Holy Icon for necrotic resistance and health. Also, you get that 5 point bonus of health regen. 1 point into Force of Devotion. Getting that throwing frailty chance is so nice. Oh my gosh, not having to worry about frailty chance on your gear. Oh, A+. 5 points into Sanctuary Guardian for armor with a shield. Also, all res with a shield. Very nice. 4 points into Shield Wall. We do need this 8% block chance here, but you get a lot of other nice to haves. Health gain on block and less stun duration on ourselves. Very nice. 8 points into Penance for that throwing bleed chance. Also, you get the 5 point bonus of bleed duration per 20 endurance threshold. 7 points into Redemption for physical pen with bleed and chance to be granted additional damage, as well as increased damage over time granted. 8 points into Reverence of Duality, 1 point into Covenant of Light, 5 points into Covenant of Protection, and 5 points into Covenant of Dominion. So before we go any further, let me just explain something very quick. I wanted the increased mana regen as well as the move speed. It just makes it feel a little bit better. But if you wanted to, you could take the 5 points out of Covenant of Dominion and put it into Reverence of Duality and get that full 12 point bonus, right? And then with that extra point, you can put it somewhere else. This will give you a little bit more health, but you'll be giving up the damage, the movement speed, and the mana regen. The thing is, I'm doing just fine clearing 1000 corruption monos with this current setup, but if you want to push further, or you just want to have that comfy, more health feeling, maybe you want more bleed duration that way, you can take those points out and put them into Reverence of Duality. And with all that being said, guys, that is the build. I'm going to be moving on to a Javelin build now, but I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm going to definitely be coming back to this throughout the season and playing it some more. Maybe one day you'll see a video from me here in season 2 of uploading a I killed Uber Aberoth or whatever, but no guarantees there. Thank you so much. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, possibly leave a like, possibly subscribe if you liked what you heard today. Really appreciate it, and you guys take care. Peace out.